Okay, chalo. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello and welcome to Leftover Lasagna, the weekly podcast that starts off with an unhinged intro. Hello and welcome to Leftover Lasagna, the podcast that starts off with an unhinged intro, descends into instant improv, and shows no signs that it. Hello and welcome to Leftover Lasagna, the podcast that starts off with an unhinged intro, descends into instant improv.
This is the opposite of instant improv.
Leftover lasagna.
Leftover lasagna.
Lasagna? No way.
It's a type of sandwich.
Some kind of gross pasta. Leftover lasagna is a podcast
hosted
by my
Nitin
charge
and Tony Uncle. Leftover lasagna.
Very funny name.
Hello and welcome to Leftover Lasagna, the weekly podcast that starts off with an unhinged intro, descends into instant improv, and shows no signs that it will improve. Run by two imps who prove that iterations do not necessarily lead to better versions. This is episode 34 with my co-host, a man of many contradictions, a cultural colossus who grew up in Chennai but will still refer to the native languages Tamil and not Tamil, even though the poet has told us Tamilukku azhagu. A man with roots in UP who strives with his every breath to blend in with the culture of the state, but will still refer to Ganga Mata as the Ganges. A man who has the best salt and pepper beard going around, but chooses to shave it off from time to time in order to look younger. A man who wears a New Zealand jersey to an England-South Africa match at the Wankhede and also to this podcast episode apparently. The man with a carefully curated persona that attracts many eyes from across the hall and leaves enough seeming room for improvement that makes women go, oh, what I could make of him. And then they proceed to fantasize dressing him up. The one and only Nitin Sundar, say hi.
Hi, Tony. Can we please get to your part of the intro? It's getting very embarrassing to keep a straight face through these intros is getting very difficult. Yeah.
Let's quickly move. And I am Tony, the man whom most people want to give a dressing down to. So, welcome to episode 34. I think inadvertently we might have let on what this episode could potentially be about.
Yeah. So, Tony, today's episode is about fashion and about clothes in general. So, why don't you lead us in?
So we were supposed to record sometime last week actually, till Nitin obviously had in his busy life, otherwise unavoidable engagements.
It's called being fashionably late, right?
So the point why I mentioned we were supposed to record last week was that it was just around the time when two things had happened in the US, right? One was stand-up comedian turned TV actor turned president premier of Ukraine visited the White House and got heckled massively by his full audience and his promoters, including Trump, J.D. Vance, and a litany of reporters who basically asked the question, why don't you fucking wear a suit?
Second question.
My second question for President Zelensky.
Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest level in this country's office and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems. I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one.
Maybe something like
like
this?
yours.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Maybe something better. I don't know. We will see. Maybe something cheaper than Thank you.
And I think a few days later, Oscars, hosted by Conan O'Brien, had Adam Sandler dressed up for a bit, as he usually does, in bright blue. What is that color? Azure blue? It's a very radioactive blue, radioactive sky blue.
Aquamarine. I've not seen it. I'm just guessing.
So he basically showed up wearing a hoodie and like a Hawaiian shirt buttoned up and knee-length basketball shorts and sneakers.
A prestigious night, it's important that everyone is properly dressed, okay? You're dressed well. Adam.
Conan, what's up, my brother?
Adam, what are you wearing?
What are you doing right now?
I'm asking you what you're wearing.
Nobody even thought about what I was wearing till you brought it up.
You're dressed like a guy playing video poker at 2 a.m., Adam.
And you know what, Golden? I like the way I look, because I'm a good person. I don't care about what I wear or what I don't wear. Did my snazzy gym shorts and fluffy sweatshirt offend you so much that you had to mock me in front of my peers?
Hey, I'm sorry. Adam, I apologize.
I'm going to go off.
But anyway, the point of this whole thing was two settings, both where dressing seemed to play a part, right? That's what we'll get into. Why we dress the way we do, probably how it has evolved, what it signals, and our journeys. So, why don't we start with you? Opening thoughts.
That Conan O'Brien joke was a reference to Trump and Zelensky, right? I assume. Probably, yeah, okay.
Why it can't, fully be is because they're worried then Elon Musk might come and buy out the academy or something. Like throw billions of dollars at it and buy it, and then like how the White House website now is.
Only to find out that the academy has already been bought out.
Exactly.
I had not watched this clip before. I had not followed the Oscars ceremony, which is why when I first saw that clip, the first thing that you see is Conan O'Brien in the tuxedo and the bow tie. Was like, why is there another guy wearing a tuxedo and a bow tie? Was my first reaction. I just feel stifled, asphyxiated, uncomfortable when I see people formally clothed. Right? I don't know why it is that way. When was the first time you wore a tie, Tony?
Would have been for my engineering placements, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't wear one for my engineering placements. I wore one for my B school interviews and GDs, and afterwards for the B school placements. And I just remember feeling so goddamn uncomfortable in them, right? But it was the done thing. They said you better wear a tie and go because it's a formal setting and you need to look a certain way. And then you show up in those rooms and everybody is wearing exactly the same kind of tie. And at that age, you really don't know how to wear a tie either, right? Like if I remember right, there was nobody in my family who knew how to tie a tie. I had to figure out, I had to meet someone who could help me.
Your school uniform never had ties?
My school uniform never had a tie.
Okay, wait. I should correct myself. I always used to wear a tie to school.
I don't think too many schools in Madras had ties, which I think is a sensible option. But that said, my son wears a tie to his school these days, except it's a clip-on tie. So I think that makes more sense. I have always associated formal clothing with very uncomfortable clothing. People say that wearing a suit changes your personality. It makes even people who are not necessarily smart look much smarter because of the way the shape, cut, fit of a suit can hide and enhance as required, right? I just find it extremely uncomfortable. I find the fact that you need to remove a suit before you sit on a chair uncomfortable. I find the fact that you need to carry a suit with you on a flight, the way you need to carry it, very uncomfortable. The fact that you need to dry clean it and handle it differently and keep it safe and all of that. And also the fact that the fact that a suit gets completely unusable if it's crumpled a little, I find that annoying. I find leather shoes annoying, right? Because they need to be polished or whatever. I don't think I've ever worn leather shoes for that matter, but whatever, your formal shoes, the 1,000 rupee Bata shoe, which is what I normally wear or used to wear when I had to. I find those uncomfortable. The fact that people don't dress up for comfort and dress up for a certain ideal of what is acceptable, what is fashionable, what is appropriate in circumstances is something that has always befuddled me. This take on formal wear, or rather the fact that everyone in a wedding looks a certain way, everyone in a funeral looks a certain way, everyone except for Adam Sandler in the 2025 Oscars looks a certain way, say something. It's something about the way you want to conform as a society in a certain setting. And I'm okay with conforming, right? I'm not against that, but why would you not just do the most comfortable thing instead? And everybody's level of comfort might be different, right? So yeah, that's been my curious take on fashion right through. The fact that people would give over functionality for formality.
3 things I want to say here. The first is the amazing privilege that us born probably Mumbai or south of Mumbai take for granted is the amazing tropical weather that we've been blessed with, right? Where you never need to have any kind of jackets or jerkins or leopard ear muffs to protect yourself from Chennai snow or anything like that. I feel like for anyone north than the Tropic of Cancer, outside the tropics generally, right? Some of this has always been a function of needing to not die, right? Which is why you have jackets, you have probably ties, you have scarves too, and you have, I don't know, beanies, caps, hats, whatever, right? And some of this is then caught on as a function of how culture has progressed, right? Like why English is the most popular language right now is just a function of distribution rather than actual quality of the language or anything else, right? And in that sense, probably fashion also follows a mode of distribution, and whatever is considered normal at a point in time is dictated by culture, obviously, right? But I just want to underscore this massive privilege that we have, that basically even if you didn't have anything, you would not die in the tropics, right? Like even the extreme heat, unless you're probably working outside 8 to 10 hours a day, if you can find a tree to rest under, you're probably gonna not die, right?
Tony, I know we all need to be aware of our privileges. I get that. But to spin tropical weather as a privilege, I think is taking it to the next level. Roasting in 45 degrees temperature with 80% humidity is a privilege. Yeah, okay, if you say so.
Here's the difference is that why I say it is because think of Delhi, right? You could very well have been born in Delhi, right? And you have both extreme cold and extreme heat, right? It's not like one or the other. I would much rather it be a predictable heat thing. And usually for us, we live along the coast, just get into some water. This is the other thing, like jumping into water without wondering what the temperature of the water is a massive tropical climate privilege, right? Come on.
True. That is true. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, like think of like someone, if you're a South Indian who goes to like outside of the tropics for the first time and just sees a body of water and jumps into it only to freaking cold, right? Like, therefore, it's not the woke privilege part of it. I'm just saying that we never have to think about it because we've lived it all our lives. That's all.
Yeah. Tony clearly is a glass half full kind of guy. And right now the glass is half filled with ambient temperature water into which you can jump without a thought. So, yeah.
The second thing that I want to bring up before we go into fashion is that I actually like the idea that, let's say, for formal settings, interviews, whatever it else, etc., you have a formal dress code. What does it do is basically it acts as a leveler, right? It doesn't suddenly sort of put one person above the other because, like you saw in that Oscar thing, there is absolutely no difference in how people are dressed, right? Everyone looks exactly the same. So for an interview, it makes a lot of sense because you've taken out that part of it, right? The analog for me would be something like accent in speech, right? Because an accent essentially gives out a lot of markers about where you come from, where you are, and people have already sort of made up a judgment before you even grasp the notion of what you're saying or the ideas, etc., etc. Because that's how humans are wired, right? Like we have to make shortcuts, we have to look at patterns, and you already preconceive a notion in your head, and unless that is unsettled, you are going to go with the stereotype. That's how most humans are wired. Therefore, I feel like in formal settings, there is a great advantage to if you sort of have the exact same clothing for everyone. Similar to if you were to judge people by, let's say, what they wrote in an email as text content versus actually having to hear them speak it in their inflections or like their cultural context-based way of speaking.
I'll push back on the second point.
Hey, say first say look back and say I'm coming, then push back.
Okay. I'll push back on this point. See, you made it. Your point is valid. If only it were true, right? Your point is that the fact that people on both sides.
Wow! What a George Bernard Shaw level insult, dude. Your point is valid only if it were true.
If only it were true. Yeah. Your point is that people on both sides of the table looking the same levels the field between them. Except if one person is wearing a tailored...
No, not both sides. Not both sides of the table. Everyone in the interview. So let's say there are 40 people.
Yeah. No, what kind of interview is this with 40 people? Is this fish market or septic tank? Hello. An interview usually involves like 3 or 4 people. But
yeah, sure. You know what I mean? Like the entire litany of people who were interviewed for that, basically.
Okay.
The lineup. The short list.
Okay. Yeah.
I think lineup is better than shortlist, but anyway, yeah.
Okay. So your point is if all the participants look the same, then it kind of levels the playing field amongst them.
Correct. There is a Nitin
Except-
Sundar, there's a Jagdish Singaram, there's an Amit Gupta, there is a, I don't know,
Interesting
you
point.
know, XYZ. Yeah.
So then I misinterpreted your point because I thought you were talking about the people inside the rooms. No, but I still have to push back because I'll come to why. So first, I'll complete the point that I was making. So if the person who's conducting the interview is in a well-tailored suit, right, a Canali suit, for instance, which costs, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars, someone who has worn suits all his life, knows how to carry them off, knows how to get the right cut for his or her body type, wears, extremely expensive, beautiful shoes, as opposed to the person at the other end who is wearing like a Raymond suit, which probably belonged to his brother or his father because that's what the family had, is wearing like a checker pattern tie because that's the only tie that they could find in the bottom of the closet, and is probably, it's a flare tie, and at a time when people are wearing thin ties, etc. Now that person sitting in that room is actually going to feel very uncomfortable, right, when he's, because he realizes at that point in the interview that while he has ticked the boxes, he is also extremely poorly dressed for the interview. The same person would have been much more comfortable if maybe not in a hoodie, but I don't know, whatever formal wear is in his culture or whatever is comfortable for him or her, because ultimately the person's going to get the job not based on the clothes that they're wearing and their ability to pull that off. And I mean, there's not a stripper interview, so definitely not based on the way they pull it off. Yeah, so ultimately you get admission or you get the job not basis how you've dressed up, but basis how you think and how you present yourself as being suitable for that role, right?
Oh, suitable.
And not basis your ability to pull off that outfit.
Suit up.
It's not a stripper's interview anyway, so how you pull off the outfit should not matter.
So you are saying that it is a leveler, right?
No, it's not. See, I really don't care when I go for an interview, right? At least this is my personal opinion. My personal take is that I really am not bothered about what the other people are doing or what they're looking like. The only thing that matters to me in an interview is what happens inside the interview room, right? Where it's
Correct,
me and
correct.
the
No,
panel.
one second.
And I want to be
Let's-
as comfortable
let's-
as I can at that point. Yeah.
Correct. So there are 2 points to this and a third.
Your point seems to imply that if all these people were not dressed similarly, there would be some kind of implicit bias that the
Exactly.
interview panel
Exactly.
is imposing on
Exactly.
them. Isn't it easier for the interview panel to be unbiased? Like, why
No,
would
it's
you want
not.
to get?
Because they're human. They're not robots. So the whole point being that there are, in typical marketing parlance, there are points of parity and points of differentiation. Right. So what I'm saying is that by sort of prescribing a dress code, you're actually achieving points of parity to make sure that everyone at one level is not judged based on their sense of cultural nuance of fashion, etc., etc. Everyone looks pretty much the same. Then you are saying that obviously privilege will still play a role, because if you are the kind of person who has enough knowledge slash privilege to get a, I don't know, Savir Row suit or like one of those custom made high end things, then you will stand out, right? Again, not necessarily the case. It also means that the interviewer has to have that nuanced eye, or you have to be Derek guy from Twitter to know know the difference between a well made suit and a badly made suit, right? And it is not necessarily the case that well made suits or well made clothes are the most expensive also, right? You could have like a neighborhood tailor who knows his stuff and can do a good job, but that's neither here nor there, right? So I am saying that in the A/B test, if you would let people dress exactly how they wanted to, versus when you're prescribing a dress code, the dress code is better off because it acts as a leveler much more than it acts as a differentiator of people. And given that interviewers are humans, like, your bias is always going to be there. Let's face it.
So interview, so analogy here, okay, and random analogy. Assume that instead of these interviews happening in a business school, they're happening in a school of fish, okay, and you're evaluating a school of fish to see which fish is the best to go and whatever work.
This is the audition for fish. The title of the audition for fish is Finding Nemo. They want to find which fish out of these can play Nemo in a movie called Finding Nemo. Yeah.
Perfect. And in order to create a level playing field amongst all the fish, because some fish are able to swim fast, some fish are able to swim deep, some fish are able to, change direction easily and all of that. In order to create a level playing field, you're going to conduct this interview on a tree. You're going to take all the fish and they need to hang from the branches of the tree.
Once again,
That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. My point is,
in the words of
formal
in the-
wear to a
in the
first-time
words of-
interviewer, who's going for a B school interview or first placement in engineering, you're putting them completely out of their comfort zone in an effort to try and create a level playing field, which seems a little random. You can create a level playing field in other ways, right? So,
Correct.
yeah.
In the words of our esteemed friend Mohan Krishnamurthy, also known as Rogan Krishnamurthy, because he's wrong quite often. You are shifting goalposts here, right? The A/B test is between an interview held in the exact same room with a prescribed dress code versus a non-prescribed dress code, right? That is the A/B test here. And I'm saying a prescribed dress code is actually better because everyone looks the same, right?
My prescribed dress code is to hang from a branch, right? So your point is hanging from a branch, dude. The interview room is an intimidating place, whether you like it or not. Doesn't matter what you're wearing.
Yeah.
So the fact that you need to wear a certain kind of clothes imposes a certain kind of restriction and
you're reducing variability to one degree. Now, this is the interesting point, which is what we want to come to, is that therefore you're saying that the best clothes that fit a person, and I agree with you, is not the one that is fashionable, but the one they are most comfortable in, right? Okay, so what would you wear to an interview?
I would always wear cotton pants and a t-shirt.
T-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. If
What
I
does a
had
t-shirt
my
say?
way, I would always be in a t-shirt. It says New Zealand cricket. What? A t-shirt probably wouldn't say anything, right? I wouldn't want to impose, I wouldn't want to project a certain kind of way of thinking if I could with what I'm wearing. So I'd probably wear a plain t-shirt. That's very comfortable.
Yeah, so then you would wear a plain black or plain white t-shirt or plain navy blue button, polo, whatever.
Yeah.
So tell us, why are you wearing the New Zealand t-shirt? What does it signify? And why do you choose to wear it to, let's say, England, South Africa at Wankhede? And why do you choose to wear the Australian jersey to an India-Australia match in Dubai? Yeah, let's go.
For the record, I did not wear the New Zealand jersey to England, South Africa at Wankhede. I wore the India jersey, but I was wearing a New Zealand cap. It's on the logo of the goddamn podcast. Yeah. Useless fellow. Yeah. Why? Because typically if you go to a cricket match as an Indian cricket fan, you're going to be amongst, 50,000 people who are wearing exactly the same India jersey, right? You say that, I like to be contrarian. I don't know if contrarian is the word, but I definitely would like to not be a part of a crowd if I can avoid it, right? Especially if it's
you do this by going to a stadium filled with 50,000 people. Okay.
I mean, to stand out in a crowd, first you have to be in a crowd, man. That's the first rule of standing out in a crowd. It's more ironical. It's just a joke, right? It's a fun thing. Like you show up at New Zealand versus England versus South Africa wearing an India jersey. It's just fun. It's funny, right? It's people look at you and think, look at this guy. He's doing something else, right? That's it. But
so you want people to look at you?
Sometimes it's also about making a statement, right? I absolutely don't like the current India jersey. Right, the current Indian team jerseys that they've been wearing for the last many years are not jerseys that I like very much. Whereas the 90s nostalgia, I really love the jerseys from the 90s. Maybe it's because I was a kid back in the 90s, but I genuinely feel that they were better than the ones that they have now. And I have this jersey from 96, which I wear quite a bit when I go to watch India games. Why did I wear an Australia jersey when I went for the recent Champions Trophy semi-final between India and Australia? Because I got an Australia jersey in Australia and I need a reason to wear it. Otherwise, it's sitting in my closet, right? And it's never going to get used. So, yeah, because I had it and I got, game knows. So, this is the funny thing. So, I was in the Australia jersey at this India-Australia game. Most people, like you would expect, were in the India jersey. They were India fans. And we've spoken about this before, right? About when we spoke about fan culture, how when you go to a stadium, especially in India, the fans actually don't interact much with each other, right? They're all doing their own thing. It's between them and the experience. And while they have a shared sense of belonging and togetherness because of the team they support, it really is not too much of a shared experience. It is a very one-on-one experience with with the game they're watching. Because I was wearing an Australia jersey on that day, some people assumed I'm Australian or that I'm an Australia fan. So they were like asking me, so what do you reckon? Do you guys have enough runs? What do you think? I forgot that the reason they're asking this to me is because of what I'm wearing. I'm like, yeah, I think we should have restricted them to a few more. I replied as an India fan, and they were like,
Restricted them to a few more. Okay, fine. They're also contradict. Here also we.
sorry, I thought we should have restricted them by a few more. My prepositions are she, her. But anyway.
The best joke I saw this week, we are recording on 13 March 2025, is my investment pronouns are was and where, was/where, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because all the portfolios across the world.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so which left that person extremely confused. Right? They were like, okay. And I realized like 1 minute later, oh, he thought. I sort of got away because I was not cheering wildly for Australia, but also because my son was sitting next to me in an India jersey, and people know that we have come together, so we like confused the plot for everyone. But yeah.
No, it's
Wait, my son
interesting
was
because
he was in an RCB jersey, whatever, which is its own kind of tangent. But anyway, yeah.
yeah, it's interesting because usually in like day-night matches you get due attention, but now you're getting undue attention.
Undue attention. Yeah. Because we were playing in Dubai. Yeah. I definitely push back against going with the flow, right?
Correct.
And
you like being a contrarian. So much so that, like I said yesterday, I disagree with myself then if you're agreeing with me. Right? Like one of those Groucho Marx things where I refuse to be a part of any club that would have me as its member. Right? So we have that contrarian streak. Let's accept it. It's not a bad thing. But
no, I don't know if it's bad thing or good thing, but I don't think it's correct. Again, once again, your point would be very good.
It's okay, it doesn't matter.
True. I'm a huge fan of the same Malayalam films that you like, right? If I were contrarian, I would.
It's fine.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, it's not.
No, it's not always 100% yes or no, right? And I feel like, okay, here's the thing, okay? It's an interesting thing that I was discussing with a friend of mine. When are you at your most humorous? Is it in one-on-one conversations? Is it when you're alone? Or is it when you're with like 3 or more people?
I think, wow, that's a very interesting question. I've never thought of it. For me, it's definitely not one-on-one. Definitely not alone. It is 3 or more people,
exactly.
But 5 or less.
I agree. I put this to my friend as a thought experiment. She had a very valid point, is that, at the end of the day, you're a performer. You, me, Nitu, we are performers, we are contrarians. That is how it is, right? Like you perform better in a crowd which is not necessarily large, right? Which is a niche audience, which is why we don't expand this podcast beyond the number of viewers/listeners we already do. So
I have a follow-up question, right? Do you wear jeans these days?
Of course.
Why do you wear jeans? You're living in the tropics, as you said. Jeans are fucking uncomfortable, right? They sweat, they stink, they are heavy, they are tough to wash, they take forever to dry. Why do you wear jeans?
You can wear them for 2 weeks at a stretch without any problem. All you need to do is the good tropical dry wash.
I know, yeah.
What is a tropical dry wash?
No, I know all that. But see,
what is it?
As in, you just put it out to dry and then you wear it.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah, no, I know that.
In the words of Seinfeld, that is the real dry cleaning, right? You just put it out, and then you're good to go. Right?
See, I can understand as a college kid in a cramped hostel room without access to a frequent laundry. Jeans probably make some kind of sense. Also, you're lazy.
Yeah.
But at this stage in life, I don't think the need to do a tropical dry wear, a tropical, what do you call it? Dry wash.
Dry wash.
A tropical dry wash. The need to do a tropical dry wash is not an overwhelming life situation for you. So why do you wear jeans? Do you find them comfortable? Do you find what the serious question?
Yeah, actually they are, right. And at the end of the day, like you mentioned, I agree with you that whatever you're most comfortable in, where you don't have to think about what you're wearing, is the best thing to wear, right? In any setting, right? So which is why I feel like in an interview room, it is okay. I mean, I'm happy to go in with a suit and a tie because then I don't have to worry about that aspect, right? And similarly, jeans gives you that universal thing to say it is universally accepted, right? It's not like like people are suddenly looking at you saying what is this guy wearing, right? So I am okay with that particular setting where you don't have to worry what you're wearing.
So fashion is about acceptance. You use the word acceptance.
I'm not saying it's fashion, right? I'm saying, okay, let's come to it right now. Is that at all points in time you're not necessarily optimizing for how you look, right? Because I'll give you an example. Is that the people who see you most often and in the least sort of performative way are probably the people in your apartment, especially the ones who do school drops for children with you early in the morning, right? So these are parents who are taking their kids to the bus stop. And let's face it, it's early in the morning. Uh, I'm pretty sure half the people haven't brushed their teeth, possibly. And you're not necessarily wearing, anything that wants to catch someone's attention, right? I'm guessing half the moms are probably not even wearing bras in that sense. They're wearing a sweatshirt or something loose enough so that you don't look at it. They're unbothered, right? You wear a sweatshirt which is unbothered written on it or something like that, and you're practically in.
Have you heard of Lululemon, the brand? Of course, you've heard of Lululemon, the brand, right?
Yeah, I've heard of Lulu.
So Lululemon pretty much has a line for school drops.
Hey, fuck that.
They do.
Let's.
Which, by the way, all the women wear Lululemons now when they do their school drops.
Because you are in Dubai.
This is a very real problem that you have raised, by the way, because
it's not a real problem. Wait, let me finish my premise. Is that therefore, if you were always dressing to be performative, this is the one place where you would optimize and then probably start wearing Lululemons, because this is the number of people who live in close proximity to you. Their judging actually has a material impact because obviously social capital, etc., etc. But also they see you every day, right? But in some senses, and I've noticed this, is that it is where people are most comfortable, having a half tucked in t-shirt or a generic pair of shorts or whatever, which are not even like, and you're not minding showing your chicken legs. You're wearing, I don't know, flip flops or slip ons, which are exposing all of your feet, right? And not in a very flirty way at that. So in that estimation, there are settings where there is a social construct to it, but as long as everyone buys into it, you're okay. And I feel like school drops is like the number one construct where this plays out.
I'm just saying we need to make the distinction between school drops and school bus drops. They are two different things. Because
school bus drops. School bus drops is the thing. So school bus drop is a real problem, right? So I get my son ready in the morning and I need to take him down at 6:40 a.m. It's quite early, right? And we just got breakfast. I'm trying to hustle him, get him out of the house, because in Dubai, buses will come between 6:39 and 6:41 and leave. If you're not there, then you're gone. So, and then I have to drive. Then I have the next 60
problem.
kilometers.
School drop becomes a problem then from school bus drop. Except I'm in my pajamas at 6:35, right? And my son is ready. He's got already. Now I need to dress up to go down. For me, dressing up is getting out of the pajamas and getting into, track pants or shorts or whatever, and flip-flops. I'm always going to be in my flip-flops, whatever. So it is dressing up for me, but I would still be the least dressed person.
But it's not just about you, right? What about the other parents? Like,
they look all fashionable, man. There are people who come
what?
like,
okay, this is a Dubai problem. This is a Dubai problem.
Nobody comes down in pajamas, right? And nobody comes down in nighties, right?
Yeah, okay, I am still wearing my very ratty shorts and the t-shirt.
Always inside home, it's either shorts or these,
or waisties.
Very uncomfortable.
Talk to me about the school bus drop. You're saying you've noticed people being performative for this also.
No, they're not. They're being normal. I'm not able to be my normal. My normal would be to go down in my pajamas and t-shirt.
This is interesting. Why, Nitin? Why can't you go down in pajamas?
Because I'm conscious to be seen in my pajamas outside my house. I don't go down in my pajamas. Yeah. Okay, that sounded very random. But yeah, so absolutely, we are definitely shaped by log kya kahenge.
Yeah.
But which doesn't mean that I dress up in Lululemons. Do they make clothes for men? I don't know. But no.
Nobody mentioned Lululemons. Why are you bringing it up? It's not.
Which is what people wear, man. Like Lululemon is that casually careless thing, right? Which people wear. Since you're talking about jeans, right? The origin of jeans is from the mines in America,
Yeah.
where people are
Yes.
working and they need some really rough and
Levi's
tough.
tops. Yeah.
Yeah, they needed really rough and tough clothes that would not like wear and tear, right? And that's where jeans started. They're extremely durable, functional, and good for the weather in which people in those mines used to work. And then when I guess when Hollywood,
You know,
Brando and Eastwood probably made them big.
denim in reverse spells mind. Make of it
Oh,
what you
is that how they got the name? Is that
I
how it
don't
got the name? Oh,
Then no idea.
wow.
This is left as an exercise to 3 listeners. Anyway, go on.
Yes, and then obviously you see fashion took it on because Hollywood and later the great pop stars of the era started wearing them, and I think Woodstock had jeans and so on, and then it became this thing, right? And it's just stayed forever. It's one of the most enduring elements of fashion in the sense, yeah, the cuts have changed, the fits have changed, but denim as a concept has not gone away, and it's always surprised me that at least half the world is not actually designed to be comfortable in denim, which includes people in the tropics.
So,
Right?
like, yeah, it's not that bad, man. Because let's at the end of the day,
Pretty bad. You should try wearing like like normal pants for a change. You'll realize how much more comfortable they are.
Yeah. No, but see, okay, here's the thing, okay? We are in the era where climate change is upon us. And so, what I was generally saying was that during school bus drops, nobody really cares, right? And this is my assumption that half the parents are unbrushed and braless and whatever else, right? Like, it really
Your
doesn't.
early morning fantasies are quite something. Anyway, go on.
Why is it a fantasy, man? Come on, like, I mean, do you sleep with your underwear on?
I do.
Okay, I go commando when I'm sleeping. Okay, because
for you.
obviously, like, why would you like? Anyway,
That
that's
makes
not
you
the
a
point.
Kundi commando. I like my family jewels to be secure when I'm in bed. So yeah.
Million jewels to be secure against what? Someone's okay. Anyway, but that's the point, right? That's the analogy.
Burglars beware.
Your point is that jeans makes you extremely sweaty, etc. I would argue that if you're outside anyway, even a cotton pants will make you sweaty. And this brings us to the next
course.
point, which is hygiene, right? And New York Times, interestingly, had this article earlier in the year, which said now because of climate change, if you're on a date, you should not just apply deodorant on the upper part of your body, but also where your butt meets your thigh, right? Because that part apparently is susceptible to get sweaty and moist more than others. So if
How
you're
does that
intending
impact
to,
climate change?
they because they live in non-tropical weathers, no, they are not used to sweating normally. But because of climate change, they're saying that now, when you apply deodorant, also apply it to the part where your butt meets your thigh, because that's the only way you can sleep on a first date or whatever, and only if they have air conditioning apparently, right? So all of these are cultural constructs. But I feel like it's okay. Like I don't see a difference. You're anyway sweating, right? Like if you're in India and you're stepping outside, you're anyway sweating. If you're in air conditioned rooms, it doesn't matter because you're not sweating potentially. Which brings me to the next point, right? Do you use a deodorant or an antiperspirant?
I do.
No. Which one?
Oh,
Not, yes.
to be to be very honest, I don't know the difference between the two. I use deodorants because I've always used deodorants. I don't know what an antiperspirant is. I don't think anything can stop me from sweating because I am me. But a deodorant would at least try and mask the odor. What does an antiperspirant do? It blocks your pores, is it?
Correct.
Oh.
It prevents you from sweating to the degree that, I mean, deodorant is basically to mask the odor, right? And I feel like it was sometime in 2015 that I made the switch from deodorant to antiperspirant. And if you are in a tropical climate, this is absolutely essential, right? Because it's again one of those things where hygiene is non-negotiable, right? So whether it is
unrelated to the topic, but I have sweat glands
Why?
all over my body. So am I supposed to slather my entire body with antiperspirant? How does this work? Like just
Do
just
you
spraying
sweat-
on your underarms doesn't help. Yeah,
Yeah, do you sweat from all parts of your body equally? What?
I actually do. In fact, I sweat more from my trunk sweats more than my underarms for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, man. Yeah, okay, you've got a
Absolutely.
weird body type. But yeah,
I've
I
got a
mean,
very sweating is one of our family's very proud heritages. So yeah, I'm the Rahul Dravid when it comes to sweating. Yeah.
but so therefore, like it's like in some senses you can say that there is a very real thing to being comfortable in your own clothes, etc., etc. But the bottom line is, I feel, hygiene, right? And this plays
Yeah, yeah.
over multiple times, including that Twitter person who got her PhD about the politics of smell, right? And then basically, like, lots of people dunked on her so much so that she's such a popular celebrity now, and she talks about. You don't remember this? No. So okay, I think this plays out very well in that in Parasite. No, do you remember when
Yeah.
this
I don't
driver is
remember. I watched the movie, but I don't remember much. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so the idea being that it's a class thing, right? And smell is a class indicator, which is played out in Parasite. But this Twitter person's PhD was her name is Dr. Ali Lukes, right? And it was a tweet, which if it because this tweet went madly viral.
Thrilled to
As you
say I
can see.
passed my Viva with no corrections and I'm officially PH done. This tweet went viral.
Yeah,
No.
the title is Olfactory Ethics: The Politics of Smell in Modern and Contemporary Prose, right? And it basically expounds on the same idea that there is a very real class distinction associated with smell, and it is played out all across English prose for years and years together, right? Which is the premise. And obviously, like
Yeah.
lots of people said, what crap is this? What value does it add? That, this, and the other. She got dunked so much so that she became popular, right? And been months together. But the point being that there is a very real politics of smell, right? And I feel like what defines home or comfort is the place where you can't smell anything. Right? Like if you step into another person's house, there's a distinct smell, or another person's car, there's a distinct smell, or if you meet a stranger, there's possibly a distinct smell. So yeah, in 2015 was the time when I made the conscious choice to switch to antiperspirant from deodorant. Again, to be comfortable in my own skin so that I don't have to keep smelling my underarms from time to time, worried what the other person is going to pick up. Right. So I feel like the bottom line for not fashion per se, but being anything is being comfortable in your own skin. Right. That extends to your entire body real estate, including, do you how often do you brush your teeth? Do you use mouthwash? Do you use chewing gum? Do you use antiperspirant? Do you wear a vest inside your shirt because the antiperspirant is going to fuck up the underarms, right? And it's going to like very really leave a stain on your shirt. This is why I switched from sleeveless vest to sleeved vests in that sense. Although given the tropical climate, that just adds one more layer, etc., etc. But anyway, my point is that the bottom line of fashion, as I see it, or bottom line of dressing up, as I see it, is how comfortable are you in your own skin. And in a context like a school bus drop, where all bets are off, I'm perfectly happy going in shorts and a t-shirt. Occasionally commando, but if time permits, I'll pull out an underwear. But at other times, I'm perfectly comfortable adhering to the social norms only because then I can deal with it at my own level, right? I want to sort of engage in ideas rather than worrying what people are judging me for, right? And it's been an evolution in that sense.
Yeah.
So that's yeah. I don't know if I mean.
No, I hear you. I hear you. And I think the way we seek comfort in our own skins might be a bit different, right? In your case, it is wearing those jeans and wearing antiperspirant and stopping your sweat from coming out. In my case, it would be wearing comfortable cotton clothes and wearing deodorant to just mask the odor because they let there be sweat. Yeah. Yeah. So I get that. I think everybody does it in their own way. Where it feels, I don't know if everyone does it in their own way, right? Let me put it that way. I think a lot of people are uncomfortable in jeans and continue to wear them, right? In general, because it is the done thing.
Yeah.
They feel more comfort in being seen to be wearing the same thing that everybody is wearing, as opposed to, comfort in the more literal sense of the word, which is, where you're wearing clothes that are weather suited.
Yeah. And we don't have to worry about them, right? But essentially what we are agreeing.
We absolutely have to worry about them.
No, you need to be comfortable in your own skin. That's the way you dress, right? Most often not to make a statement because the other place where lots of people see us and see us for posterity is on podcast recordings, right? Where usually I'm wearing, one of those plain t-shirts which says nothing. It's either black or olive or wine red, one of those.
Basically, you wear something that meets expectations.
Exactly. Right. So there is that part. Now the third layer that I want to draw out is I feel you need to put an effort. Right. And for the longest time, I grew up saying that I don't care about how I look, mostly because it didn't. It was some deep layered insecurity, given how I used to be, given how my teeth were, etc., etc. But also, you reach an age and stage where realistically all it takes is working out to the extent that you feel healthy, feel good, and finding age appropriate fits, right? So you don't necessarily need to wear slim fits or anything. You find what fits you and then stick to it, right? And it doesn't even need to be like high end branded clothes or anything. But there is a distinct difference between good looking and looking good, right? And I have long since known that good looking is a genetic lottery, right? Like only about, by definition, only about 5% of the world should be good looking, because otherwise everyone's above the end spectrum, which doesn't count. But looking good is a personal choice, right? It includes the kind of haircut you get, the way you shape your facial hair, what you wear, etc., etc. And I feel like at this point in time, I feel a distinct value in looking the best version of yourself.
Oh, sure. Who would argue against that, right? Absolutely, because how you look is also a function of how you feel, and if nothing else, the fact that you make yourself look a certain way makes you feel better about yourself, then absolutely go ahead and do that, right? There's no questioning that.
I have an interesting, maybe not a theory, but an observation to this is that this also follows a certain interesting path, right? It's age, but also stage and the cultural, inputs there. When you're in your teens or early 20s, you're obviously trying to attract a mate in that sense, right? And a mate for life, and you will, and possibly the best version of you would be the one just before you get married, because you're verily preparing for a wedding and like tailor made stuff, and also like workout routines, that this and the other. And then the wedding happens and you get into the marriage, and I feel like year 3 of the marriage is when both of the couple look their worst, right? Because you've let yourself go. You're, dining on junk food. And obviously, like, no one's an expert at cooking or expects to do it. There's a lot of takeout food,
Yeah.
and a lot of comfort in the fact that this person is going to be your mate for life, right? And then I feel like year 3 to 7, it changes a little, where you're like, yeah, I've let myself go, and you try to pick up, then it doesn't happen. Then probably around year 7, you realize that, broad generalization, there is only you, right, for the rest of the life. Of course, your mate is there, but
Needandiya Aishwarya Rai.
Nata and Aishwarya Rai.
Nanda Sushmita Sen.
Yeah. I should be my own 50 kg Taj Mahal.
Yeah, I was, as you were laying out the timeline, I was trying to think, whether I was at my best version when I got
Not
married.
you. Think about your batchmates. This is a broader observation than you.
Here we should worry about other people and not make it too personal. I mean, broadly, yes, I do agree, right? Like people go from peacocking to not having to peacock anymore. So,
Yeah.
and they let themselves go and all of that. And yeah, with age, maturity, and cultural inputs, you eventually settle into, a certain kind of contented rhythm with life.
Yeah, my larger life point is that probably closer to your late 30s, early 40s, you reach the realization, everyone does, that there is no such thing as lasting happiness, and purpose, meaning, and everything is defined entirely by you, for you, right? Which
Yeah.
also means that you reach a stage where you should ideally not look at fashion for fashion's sake. You should look at looking good for your own sake, right? It is the same thing as if you were on a date, or forget a date. If you are on an interview, you are probably wearing your best underwear, right? You're not expecting the interviewer to see your underwear, but you're wearing it so you feel the most comfortable, right? And you're
Yeah.
feeling confident, right? Go on.
No, you're right. But if this were true, people would significantly change the way they dress as they age, right? But you still see that people who are conducting interviews or attending interviews later in their life are still wearing the same kind of suits, or people just forget interviews because that's it's an outlier moment. But people who go to work dress broadly the same way, right? You go to a bank
Yeah.
or you go to a whatever product company.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether you're in your 20s or your 40s or 50s, they're all wearing the same
Yeah.
kind of clothes.
Yeah.
So then that flies in the face of what you're saying, right? Because
No, yeah. Okay.
your abstraction of fashion has not changed, though, as you're saying, the outlook towards life and your
Yeah.
comfort in your own skin should change. I would definitely want to wear comfortable underwear to all my interviews. It doesn't matter whether it is in my 20s or my 40s. Are you suggesting
Correct.
that in my 40s, the importance I would give to the underwear as opposed to the suit is more than it would be in the 20s?
No, no. I'm saying that always remains the same, which means that the underlying thing is always the same, that it's only for you, right? Unless Nitin, so that I don't know about you, but I've not been to interviews where I've had to show my underwear. but but here's the point, right? When I said we don't have to care about other people, it was with the clear understanding that the reason why we do this podcast is not for the viewers, right? It's for us, right? And it's also because at some level you could verily choose to spend your time networking and talking to people at corporate levels, being part of panels at this and the other, or being on LinkedIn, which I also am guilty of. But it's just a vapid pool of banal nothingness, right? That is not where you should look if you want to sort of live life on your own terms, right? And obviously there are constraints to living life on your own terms. But I feel like what is the logical next step in a life that is examined is this, right? And there is a value in not letting yourself go, right? Like, and looking the best version of yourself. That's the broad point. And I'll tell you the other reason, and this is tangential, is why everyone looks the same in corporate and don't bother changing, is also the reason why most of the content people consume, I guess 95% of the content people consume are the content created in the last 24 to 48 hours, right? Whereas if you think about it, there are so many amazing works that have been created over the years where people have invested significant amounts of effort into, and yet you don't consume that purely because of peer pressure. And where does peer pressure make itself most apparent is in the office, when you need to have a water cooler conversation with a person you otherwise don't care about, but with whom you have to create the semblance of saying that I want to be your acquaintance, right? I am not inimical to you, I am sort of friendly to you. So when we have this next discussion, please approve my proposal or whatever, right? Like, or like support me. A proposal. Right? Therefore, otherwise, if you were objective about it, no one would consume content created in the last 24 to 48 hours unless it is leftover lasagna, which
also has been left over for more than 48 hours.
Yeah, so therefore, I don't think that's the right place to look in if you want to sort of look at what is your North Star, right? At least my North Star never.
So, what is the right place to look in? Would it be a sports stadium?
Inwards, no?
Words, okay, but how do I look at other people if I'm? We are trying to observe what humanity is up to. I understand what you're saying.
Correct. Absolutely. I am not dressing like Adam Sandler. My point is, you have to look inwards and then build a circle of people around you who expand your mind, but also call out your bullshit, right? But that's the only way. That's the only way, right? Like, that's the realistic way to do it.
Fair. No, I don't. I imbibe everything that you say, and you're right about it. Except it's gone to a very deep philosophical level. I want to bring it back to the surface level. So, one thing that is definitely, while we're talking about formal wear at work, right, there has definitely been a push towards casualization. I remember this was, I think, the first time I really noticed it. Obviously, if you've worked in tech in India, generally now people show up in t-shirts, right, in Bangalore and offices, most of the offices, right? I think Bombay is still quite different because it's still the financial district, and there's certain appearances that Bombay still wants to keep, and I think generally people conform to that. But in Bangalore, definitely you will see, most people who go to work go in t-shirts, right, and in jeans or whatever cargos. And I remember when I was interviewing with Amazon, there was this dossier that they gave for how to prepare for an Amazon interview. And one of the things that they very clearly laid out was, we want you to be as comfortable as you can be at the interview. So feel free to wear your jeans, whatever casual wear that you want to wear. Obviously, don't come in, something that is going to stand out dramatically, but we don't expect you to come in suits, was something they called out. And I remember reading that and feeling, so much more at ease before I went in for my interview. Maybe it's partly my personality that I just have always been, I feel kind of threatened by formal wear, to the extent that even if I'm going to a formal event, one of the things that would first come to my mind is, oh, I don't even have the right clothes to wear to this event. Now, what do I wear? How do I make do with what I have? Because I don't want to go and buy new clothes. So yeah, anyway, that was just a thought. And
no, so the best place obviously is where they bring in a cultural this thing to say it doesn't matter, bring yourself, right? And then you're just bringing yourself, which is fine, right? So,
you're right. Except what ends up happening is that be yourself is it changes the baseline, but then everybody then adheres to that baseline. They don't actually be themselves, is what I'm saying. Because you actually don't see people wearing dhotis to work, right? Which they're probably very comfortable with at home. Because they can't be entirely themselves.
The point around what you mentioned about cities is fascinating, because I always had the assumption that you can pretty much tell where a person is from based on how they dress, right? Like broadly, if you see people in Mumbai, you can kind of say if they're from Kerala / Tamil Nadu or South Bombay, etc., etc. Like it's a normal thing. But I was talking to a friend of mine, Nishkal, who's part of one of the fashion majors in India, right? They have retail outlets all over India. So one of the fascinating things he told me was that they have a 15-day cycle. So if anything doesn't get picked up in 15 days, they change it out immediately from the stores. Right? And they have stores all across India, and all across India, usually the clothes that get picked by people are the same, irrespective of the city, which I thought was fascinating, because you would assume that there is a cultural layer to it based on what cinema you consume or what you see people wear around you. But by and large, the things that perform across cities are the same. So I don't know if it's a universal consciousness or a push towards something that is probably more Western and therefore same.
That's a very, very interesting observation, right? Slightly random aside. So I used to work at Myntra, right? Which was like the perfect place for me, being the most unfashionable person that I know to work in India's biggest fashion platform. And I was in the marketing team, which meant I also needed to actually have a finger on the pulse of what fashion is. And I stuck out like a sore thumb in that company for the 3 years that I worked there. Anyway, so there was this time when...
were you trying to hail a ride?
Waste. Okay. There was a time when we were trying to come up with a campaign for the South, right? And specifically for Tamil Nadu. And there were a bunch of ideas that were being, done. And I remember that one of the ideas, we tried to, ride on top of a Rajnikant film that was releasing at that time. We had the idea for about 3-4 days. We looked at, a bunch of lines. This was around the movie Kabali, where the trailers had come out where he was wearing this metallic suit and, and there's some very, very cool stuff and all of that. We thought, okay, can we do something around Kabali and Rajnikant's looks and everything? And the insight that came out was, you know what, actually Tamil Nadu does not try to dress up like Rajnikant. They adore their superstars, but the superstars of Tamil cinema are not fashion icons. They might be culture icons, but they're not fashion icons. And it's the same point that you're making, right? Doesn't matter which part of the country you're coming from. I think the people who actually are consuming fashion content and imbibing it are probably getting it from Western influences, and maybe TikTok and Reels and Instagram are bigger drivers of it than the respective movie industries that we are part of. It only strikes me now that given my Myntra background, I should have been able to speak on this topic like an absolute authority. And I'm not an authority. I'm so much not an authority, I don't even realize that connection until like so far into the discussion. It's like
same, I was like, during that, when you were saying the last thing, I was like, fuck, why have you going on?
This is why you need to be going on. I can't believe I held a job in that place for like 3 years. I want to ask you, have you ever owned a pair of Nikes?
Yes.
Do you currently wear a pair of Nikes?
So I have a pair of, so my favorite shoe brand these days is Neiman's. I don't know how it's pronounced because
Neiman's.
Like it's cheap, but it's also fashionable, and it does the job. Right?
I was perhaps amongst the first 100 buyers of Neiman's shoes when they first launched.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah,
Do the sticker.
Back. I still have those pair of shoes. They're really good. Those wool shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
They're so comfortable. I wear them all the time.
Very comfortable. Yeah. Neiman's for the win. Yeah. Come on, sponsor us.
Indian D2C brands are not doing all that well. I don't think they are funny for us. But yeah, go on.
I also recently bought a pair of Asics just because, right?
Onitsuka Tiger!
No, not Onitsuka Tiger. Not that much also. But here's the thing, right? Like, I don't understand the term sneaker head or whatever, but also it's not a thing that
because
I
it's a word on the feet. Why do you call sneakerhead? It makes no sense.
Yeah, okay.
The foot hat.
But what's the point of your question? Do I own a Nike?
No, so I'm sure you've read and heard about Nike's downfall. I wouldn't say downfall, but their stock took like a 25-30% tank sometime last year, and they've generally been, they're not the cultural force they were for 30 years, right? And they've been overtaken by brands like On Cloud Running. You might have noticed this strange brand. I don't know if they're very distinctive. You would have, because you would have seen.
Is it like Vibrams?
It's not like Vibrams, no. It's like regular shoes only, except it has these pods in the bottom. It has something called Cloud Tech, which is supposed to be nicer for running. You would have noticed the brand logo. Just Google OC, On Running brand. You would have definitely seen it, right? They've flooded the market. They're everywhere. There's another brand called Hoka, which again, I don't know.
Hoka is what Adam Sandler wears.
Okay. There you go. So Hoka and On Cloud Running have absolutely decimated Nike's brand share in the last 3-4 years. But Nike, I mean, while the sharp dip happened last year, what I've read is that they sort of lost touch with how to stay innovative and ahead of the curve, and new brands came in and swooped and took over their market share and whatever. So Nike is still there. Anyway, what I find funny is this all happened over the last 1 year or so, right? Like Hoka has been around, I think, for 4 or 5 years. On Cloud Running actually launched in 2010, 2012, whatever. Now, if you go out and see people when they're running, and I tend to observe shoes. For some reason, my eyes don't go to what clothes people are wearing, but I really like to look at shoes, right? I see On Cloud Running everywhere. It's just absolutely flooded the market. And what I find interesting is the way these fashion trends take over, right? Where one brand just suddenly comes and suddenly the entire world is wearing it. Have you heard of Daniel Wellington watches? Or have you seen Daniel Wellington watches? No. So Daniel Wellington is this brand that burst into popularity, I think, around 2015-16 types. And they had a massive moment in 2017-18. And now they've sort of completely declined. And they rode the wave of influencer marketing. They're very cheap watches. They're made with, some very basic movement. Very cheap. They're expensive, but they're cheap material. Sorry, I should rephrase. They're not as expensive as your Fossils and Tissot and whatever, right? But they are made of like very, very random Chinese sort of mechanisms and very cheap material, but they're priced as aspirational premium, so they're actually reasonably expensive. They have a certain aesthetic going for them, etc. But there was this time when they just absolutely took off on the basis of just Instagram marketing, where the founder gave away their watches for free to a bunch of people who had X number of followers on Instagram and asked them to post content around it, and then they made millions. Right? This was, I think, the first sort of wave of short video marketing even before TikTok existed. Right? But for me, this goes back to your point about how fashion trends across the country, for instance, are broadly the same. And it's, suddenly, if 10 people do one thing, we are very willing to jump into the same kind of thing. Correct. And suddenly, Nike is anathema. Right? People won't buy Nike. Nikes are going at massive discount everywhere. Okay. Nobody's buying them.
Time to buy Nike.
Exactly. It's a time to buy Nike, not their stock. I don't think they'll recover. But the shoes are still very good. It's just that people don't want to be seen wearing that logo anymore. Right? And I find that fascinating. Right? I still wear my Nike. I'm like 10 years behind on fashion anyway.
Of course.
The Nike I bought in 2018 is not giving up. I've run like some 500 kilometers on it. Same. Nothing's happening to the shoes, so I continue to wear them.
With about a minute to conclude, I think this is a good place to jump off, which we should have addressed long back. Is that probably Nitin and I are the kind of people who've never owned a watch that has cost more than 5,000 rupees. You have 10,000.
My Garmin was quite expensive, but I didn't.
No, a fashion watch.
I've never owned a fashion watch. What is a fashion watch?
G-Shock. I don't know. Whatever.
G-Shock is fashion watch. Give up. Fashion stars have run away.
But at the same time, we must also take cognizance of how the world of fashion is very different for men versus women. And given that we are not women, we are so lucky, because I know of at least 2 of my friends, women, who've given up on Instagram. And I'm like, why are you off Instagram? Just use social media consciously. And they're like, have you seen our feed? It is at all points in time selling stuff which A, makes them insecure, B, makes them want to buy things that they don't want, and C, because it's Instagram, it's like a click away, they end up buying a lot of stuff, right? And so much so that the only way out of it for them is to give up Instagram, right? Which I feel like merits more than 30 seconds worth of airtime. So please contextualize everything that we've said with our complete ignorance of the world for half the gender, and probably in terms of fashion,
No.
80% of the target audience.
Maybe the next episode should be about women and fashion. And if possible, we should get Nisha to come back on the podcast to talk to us
Okay.
about it.
We'll ask Nisha.
Let's not do lip service. Let's do proper.
Let's not do lip service. Okay, fine. All right. On that note,
This is leftover lasagna. Very fashionable. Yes, very fascinating and fashionable. Yeah.
all right. Till we meet again. This is for now two men, Nitin and Tony, saying bye. Say bye.
Both of us plan to remain men, by the way. Yeah.